Hello everyone, this is the finale for now of What If Naruto Was a Hitman, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Moonlight shone down, bathing the streets of Roanapur in pale light and deep shadows. A figure was running without caution down the dark alley, every so often threw a panicked look over his shoulder. He knew coming to Roanapur was a bad idea, but he figured where better to set up shop than a city rife with crime. Who cares about a few whores? I had some fun is all. The man who called himself Alpha was from California and had the typical surfer body and bleached blonde spiky hair. He had been enjoying himself at one of the many hole-in-the-wall seedy bars that littered the city when the door had been kicked in. The figure in the doorway caused many of the patrons to shrink back. They remembered the last time that this person had been Roanapur and what had happened to some of the more foolish amongst them. The blonde walked into the room with a tube case slung across his back as his eyes scanned the smoke-filled and dimly lit bar. Alpha didn't know who this was and didn't care as the man walked up to the bar and the bartender already had a beer waiting. The patrons began to relax as the man drank his beer in silence. It went sly quiet when the man spoke. I'm looking for a man who carves up women's faces after he's done raping them. You could hear the blood that was in a person's veins moving with the silence that had dropped onto the sleazy bar. No one dared to breath, or move. Alpha, however, not knowing just who the man was, tried to slip from the bar. The man had spun and fired a shot, shattering the table he'd been at. We have a winner, or in your remaining moments of life, a loser. The blonde had said as Alpha took off running. The chase had been going on and Alpha was scared for his life as shots would ring out and he didn't notice that they were driving him and he found himself near the docks and nowhere to run. The next shot exploded the concrete in front of his foot and he tripped over the debris and landed hard on the ground. Spinning on the ground, he looked about wildly. What do you want? He screamed. A cold beer and a Cuban cigar. Alpha turned to see the blonde standing behind him, arms crossed. You know Roanapur is a hive of SC and villainy, but even here there are rules. They were just whores, Alpha said. And that is your first mistake. The blonde said, and before Alpha could utter another word he was as the bullet slammed into his skull and out the back of his head, his brains washing the street. A second shot rang out as his C was destroyed. 9 sighed as he pulled out a cell phone and hit speed dial. Need a cleaner near the docks. One body. He hit disconnect and then took a picture using his phone. He shook his head. Your mistake was thinking that no one looked after the so-called whores. 9 told the corpse. In Roanapur, everyone belongs to someone. He pulled out a cigar and started walking. That didn't take you long. 9 looked up to see Ida. It's odd to wear sunglasses at night. The blonde nun smirked. I'm cool that way. She fell into step with 9. So, any plans? She asked. Yes. Ida waited and when the blonde said nothing she pressed on. Do they perhaps include you and me in a bed, minus clothing? No. 9 said and continued walking. Ida pouted. You know I'm better than 2 hands. 9 kept walking. You know competing with her for everything has got to get boring. He said. Ida shrugged. For you I'd give my best. 9 snorted. You did. Your bosses at Langley tried intimidating me afterwards for corrupting their agent in the field. Ida stopped. Have you told anyone? Her voice barely a whisper. No, and I don't plan to. 9 said as he kept walking, forcing Ida to run to catch up. Your secrets are safe with me, Ida. I promise you that. She touched his arm and it caused him to stop walking. Naruto. The use of his name brought his full attention on her. You and your friends have gotten a lot of attention. With your skills and abilities, someone from some government will come at you. First they'll use the carrot, but more of them are in favor of using the stick method to get what they want. Then you best warn them that I don't play nice, and if they threaten me and mine, they'll be filling a lot of pine boxes. Ida didn't follow as he walked away. Her night was suddenly cold and very lonely. XX. Yellow flag. 9 downed the glass of bourbon. You know Say thinks we should put a permanent tracker on you. Soonard sat next to him and ordered scotch. What's bothering you, kiddo? Roanapur brings out the worst in me. Sunad snorted. Bulls. That would Konoha. 9 nodded. You know we ran into a couple of bounty hunters when we went after Malloy. Yeah, Yugito mentioned that. Sunad waited and sighed. After we're done with this job, I think we should take care of this. 9 nodded. I should have blown Danzo's head off. He muttered, downing more bourbon and pouring more into his glass. You know you keep drinking like that, soon you'll building boats in a basement. Sunad teased. Jealous. 9 countered. Yes. The pair sat in silence for a bit, then 9 spoke. You know, if I ever retired and built boats in my basement, you'd be sitting there drinking all my booze. And Shizune would be checking on us constantly. Sunad got a mischievous smile. And how many of your girlfriends would be living with us? XX. Lagoon Company. Dutch scratched his chin as he looked at the contract. Across from him Shizune sat petting that pet pig of theirs. You want to hire us for a year? He asked for clarification. Yes, we would need you and your craft for some work. We'll work around other jobs you will likely pick up, and we will of course cover repairs the lagoon will need. Dutch looked over the contract again. What jobs are you taking for the Church of Violence that you'll require the lagoon? As 9 says, the fun kind. Shizune said with a soft smile. It's a good job, and you know we won't be trying to K you. Dutch nodded at that. I noticed you had an insurance clause. Well, you never know who will try and K us, so there is a bonus attached for each job. Dutch looked at the brunette. And you do this in all your jobs? Well, usually it's for us, but since we're hiring you, I thought it would work. Shizune said. Ah, rock. Good. Look over this contract. Dutch said as the former businessman staggered into the office. By the way, have you seen Revi? XX. Rooftop. A standoff was taking place. Revi had her dual cutlass pistols drawn. One part of the triangle had Temari with her shotgun aimed at Revi's midsection. The third member of the standoff was Yugito, armed with a pair of automatic pistols with silencers. Don't you usually use knives? Revi asked. Emariao. For you'll make an exception. Naruto is mine. The clack-clack as Temari chambered a round in her shotgun found the weapon aimed at her. He's not yours, El Cat. Not yet. The 3 were growling at one another. They missed the 4th figure that appeared out of the shadows. Snikt. All 3 women cursed as they found their forearms bleeding and the guns dropping as their hands became nervous. Standing in the middle of the standoff was Hinata, her blades drawn. Fing, gentle fist. Temari cursed, holding her numb appendage. If we're talking about Naruto-kun, then I must weigh in on this and say he is mine. X. Roanapur General Hospital. 9 leaned against the door and shook his head. Sunad was in the middle of reprimanding the 4 women who had been admitted with gunshot and wounds. And what are you laughing about? 9 looked over his shoulder at Shizune. Rock panicked and dragged them here. For such a scrawny man he is deceivingly strong. Shizune peeked into the room, the hospital staff having abandoned the 4 women to the mercy of Sunad the moment the blonde stormed through the emergency room doors. Bar-chan and I were speaking with Yolanda. She was happy with the side job I did, and while we wait for the main job she might hire us for several more side jobs as well. Benny gave us the call. He pointed in the room with his chin. None of them will say what the rumble was about, but at least none of it was life-threatening. Shizune shook her head. Gara wanted me to tell you Sei needs a word with you after you're done here. He also wanted me to remind you that the poker game is on. He says Balalaika wants to win back some of the money she lost the last time you were here. 9 snorted. She should play Bar-chan then. You picking up double this weekend? Shizune smiled and blushed cutely. Sei has the radio studio set up so Anita can do her show. And would you stop calling her that? 9 shrugged. Anita/Amanda both begin and end with her, and she has 2 names. So do you want a chaperone when you pick up your girlfriend? He asked again. Not you, Whiskers. Temari is taking me. Both looked into the room to see Sunad using chakra to close wounds, the whole time lecturing him about the stupidity of territorial females and clueless blonde assassins. So, who do you think won? 9 asked Shizune, who rolled her eyes at said blonde assassin. XX. 12 Tails Agency, lower levels, lab. Derezed, by Daft Punk was playing loudly when 9 exited the elevator into the domain of the group's tech genius. He smiled as he saw a pair of bare feet sticking out from a machine that was in various states of assembly. 9 smiled as he watched the feet wiggle with the music and he noticed Sei had a new tattoo around her ankle. He looked closer and saw it was a shadow of a 9-tailed kitsune. He felt a smile as he thought back to when he first met Sei. She was dressed more conservative than when they first met and she wore colors other than all black. He was lost in thought that he hadn't noticed she had slid out from under the machine. Didn't notice until the bare foot was rubbing up and down his leg. "Hey Sei," he said, "you wanted to see me." The goth gave him a look and held up a hand which he took, and with a yank had her on her feet. She leaned into him. "You know you could stop all the fighting by choosing one woman," she said. 9 shrugged. "And hurt the rest, no thanks." Sei ran a hand up his chest. "So a harm, kinky," she said and pouted when he backed away. "Never more than one at a time," he said. "Now, what did you need me for that? Gara couldn't do, and don't say yes." Sei pouted and spun, her fingers danced over the keyboard. "I've been keeping an eye on several of the local feeds. Word has spread we're back. Did you really spend the night with 2 hands again?" "Yes. What's the big hubbub? Want to share your details? I could write a fanfic with excessive amount of lemons," Sei offered. "No. What did you find?" 9 tried again. "Someone's offering a bounty on your head. Can't be anyone that knows you, because it's only for 10 grand. 9 snorted in disdain. "I think one of Gara's bombs costs 10 grand. What else? Just the usual garbage. The haters, the fangirls, and even some fanboys. There are several job offers, but none have been posted to the site." "Keep an eye open then," he said, heading for the door. "Wait." He looked and walked back. "Dutch and the Lagoon wish to hire you, 1 and 2 for a job. They're picking up a package and dropping it off on Whitefall Island." "Patience?" he inquired and Sei nodded. 9 sighed. "Last time we did a job on Whitefall, that hag tried to shoot me." He shook his head. "Tell Dutch that Gara and I will be there. Yugito is on the injured list until Bar-chan releases her." Sei nodded. "He'll want you there at 5. 9 looked at the wall clock and nodded. Kissing her forehead, "Remind Gara," he headed for the door, "and tell him to be dressed." 9 said and was out the door. Sei looked to where her office was and Gara's mop of red head peeking over the desk. She shot the redhead a look. How the hell does he do that? Gara stood securing his pants, then pulling on his shirt. "You've known him how long?" "It's 9, he knows." He headed for the stairs to take him upstairs to get his gear for work. Sei watched him go. "Still a nice butt," she said and turned back to her machines, knowing that 9 didn't care that she had her itch scratched. It was one of the reasons she cared for the blonde. XX. Lagoon. The group relaxed as the lagoon cut through the waters around Roanapur with ease. "So where's Cat Girl?" Dutch asked. Revi was in a foul mood, as her arm and leg stung and she glared at the black man. 9 checked the sight of his rifle before answering. "Well, since she has an actual bullet hole in her shoulder, Bar-chan is making sure she's healed fully." He looked at Revi. "And salt water stings like a bee on fresh wounds." "Fu." Revi growled, her hat twitched towards her cutlasses. 9 smirked. "You're the one who got in a knife and gun fight. Was going fine till that little one went berserker," Revi said. 9 knew Hinata had issues, and he knew he was one of those issues. His thoughts were interrupted seeing Gara stagger to the rail and lean over. "So, what are we picking up exactly?" he asked. "Medical supplies and food stuff. Whitefall's usual boat was hit by pirates. Hotel Moscow has hired us to make the run." Revi spoke up. "Hey, didn't that crazy old bee shoot you once?" "Tried. Patience tried to shoot me." There were words exchanged, and her nephew ended up with a bullet or 2 of mine in him after an exchange of bullets. Revi laughed. "You let me do the talking," Dutch said. "You and Gara are here for extra muscle. And here I thought it was my good looks, and for you to watch Gara puke everything he's ever eaten over the side." The 3 looked and Dutch made a face. "I don't think I've ever seen someone get so sick before." 9 shrugged. "He grew up in the middle of a desert. Give him time, he'll find his sea legs." Revi snickered. "I think he threw those up a mile back." Gara med. XX. Picking up the supplies was easy. It was when they were on their way to Whitefall that the problems started. Benny popped up on deck telling them they just got new coordinates to make the drop at. "I think Patience plans on shooting us and skipping out on paying the bill," 9 said. She couldn't be that dumb. She knows Balalaika would carve out her heart. Dutch said as he went to radio in the change to Hotel Moscow and confirmed the change. Revi smirked as she was checking over her ammo as well as her shotgun. I knew having you along would make things interesting, she said. 9 slipped the ammo belts over his shoulder, checked his thigh holster with the kunai and then his Colts. Giving Gara a nudge with his foot. Up and at, brother. Gara opened his eyes and there was a calmness there. Dutch returned to the deck swearing. The drop-off is a quarter of a mile inland. He pulled a map. We can take the lagoon up the river here, he said, tracing the route. They expect us to dock here. He pointed. And while we're making the drop they'd board and take the lagoon. 9 said. 9 Street USD the map. Drop Gara and I here. He pointed at a place. We'll hike to here and lay a trap here. Can you cover that distance on foot that quickly? Dutch asked. Easily. Gara spoke for the first time. We'll leave a mark for you to know where to avoid steppin'. 9 said. I'll go with. Revi said. No. Patience will be expecting you to be with Dutch during the drop. 9 said. Benny and Rock will stay with the lagoon, and once we unload the cargo, I'll have them move the lagoon to here. Dutch said. Good. We'll set an escape direction. 9 said as he traced the route. Does Patience know we'll be with you? Gara asked. No. And Balalaika wouldn't have mentioned you coming along. Dutch said. If we're gonna do it, let's do it. 9 said as he hoisted his sniper rifle. You're looking forward to shooting Patience, aren't you? Revi said. Maybe. I usually don't give a person a second chance to try and shoot me. 9 answered. You usually don't give a first chance. Gara intoned. See. I've matured. 9 said. Dutch was wondering if he knew any sane gunslingers and realized he was in the same category. XXX. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.